Hello, everyone. I have something in front of me. Okay, there we go. Everyone, what's good? This is BIGCED, the industry cosign, back at it. And you're dumb. I just said usually I'm the one with the shits and giggles immediately, but you had to start. But anyway, for those tuning in for the first time, my name is BIGCED, the industry cosign. This is called My Friends Are Better Than Yours, even though today that's not the case. But I've been doing this for several years now, and I get sick of speaking to celebrities and executives and people who don't care about what I do. Actually, my friends don't even care what I do. But with this platform, I like to acknowledge people who have been doing well and are continuing to do well, people that I feel they should get more recognition than the people that you might ordinarily see. But today I've made an exception. Now let me stop.
You know what? That's like number 4 or something since we've been on the phone today. Like you need to speed it up because normally you're at like number 10. Stop playing with me.
Okay, I'm gonna slow it down. So my special guest today is Aria F. Wright, which stands for Aria fucking Wright.
Oh my.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna try to calm down because I usually start like after maybe 10 minutes, but
nah, you go right in with me. It's fine.
After seeing what I see, said he said, it's just like, you know. But anyway, sorry about that. Okay, so I would like for Aria to introduce herself, give a brief bio because whatever she says, we're gonna most likely talk about anyway. So that way, for people who have tuned in before, you know, we get into it and then we just take it from there. And by the time this is over, you'll learn a little bit more about her and probably hate me a little bit more. So, Aria, introduce yourself.
Yes, Aria Wright. I'm a big fan of said.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No. Said and I have been friends for a very long time. So as you know, everybody that comes on here has a lot of history with him, and the banter never stops. But so in short, I'll give you the higher level view of who I am. I am a maybe almost 3 decades veteran of the spirits industry. I am a middle child. My older sister lives in Chicago. My younger brother lives he lives between Maryland and Florida. And I am just transitioning into being a serial entrepreneur because I have several things going on right now. I founded my company 2018 as the industry connection, and we're a marketing consultancy. We specialize in life cycle marketing and, spirits industry, the sports industry, film, television, music, whatever it is, I'm your girl.
I was trying to say this a little later, but since you mentioned the industry connection, for all those that don't realize, the only reason why she named her company the Industry Connection was because she wants to, take away from my name, the industry cosign. So she figured a clever way, so that way she could be correlated to the industry cosign without actually being the industry cosign. And she knows I can't afford a lawyer, so I couldn't sue her. So,
right.
It is what it is. Now,
all these things are factual. It's all about you, said. It's all about you.
never that. I don't even know where to start because I have so many items to speak about. But let's go back to the very start, only so people can get an idea of like who you are and what you've done over the past 70 years. I know you went I know you went to Temple University, and I know I met you like literally like you still had ponytails and
Okay.
Let me stop. Okay, I'm gonna try to like tone it down a little, but
no, you're excited to talk to me. It's okay.
That's probably what it is. And from a distance where you can't retaliate and hit me.
Exactly. I will cut your hair off. I will do everything.
Exactly.
Everything. These are facts. These are hard facts, baby.
Yeah. what motivated you to actually, how did you get into specifically the industry? When I say the industry, of course, the entertainment, because it encompasses so many, and you've
Yeah.
done so many things within it. But what brought you into the industry? Yeah, what brought you into the industry? Like, how did your path lead you here?
So, as you mentioned, I graduated from Temple University. I had a bachelor's of business administration degree in marketing. And I knew I always wanted to, just do something with people. And I always wanted to connect with people. And that kind of transitioned to me being the people connector. But my first job out of college was a job that was in Philadelphia. And I kind of had it before. So when I graduated, I was like, okay, I got to figure this out because my ultimate goal was to get to New York. And so I kind of put some feelers out. And then my sister's ex was working at NBC News. And he was like, well, I can get you a job here, but, it may not be doing what you want to do. And I was like, well, good, because I don't know what I want to do yet. So maybe that'll help, So I packed my stuff up and I moved to Brooklyn. And I worked as an electronic journalism in the electronic journalism department, logging tapes for like the NBC News and the nightly news. And, this was before Conan O'Brien, I think. But it was a nowhere job, great job because it paid great, but I just knew I wanted more. And then I bumped into one of my friends who went to elementary school with me, actually. And she introduced me to my mentor, my friend, my best friend now, Sincere Thompson. And I told him, I said, look, if you ever get an opportunity to hire, people, then let me know because I want to work in the music industry. So this was all just off the top. This is all off the top of my head because I was freestyling. And so one day I was at NBC News and he said, guess what, Aria, I'm over at Motown. So, if you want to come over here, then come on. So I was like, yes. So what I actually did was I continued working at NBC News because the job at Motown was not paying squat. It was probably paying about not even $30,000 a year. So I was making a lot more money at NBC News, working the overnights for like 2 or 3 nights a week than I was for working 70 hours at Motown. So what I did was I ended up staying over at NBC, working the night shift, and then I would leave and go to Motown during the day. And then a lot of times, as you know, that would end up in us being out at night at the club promoting, and then I go right back around. So I did that for like 8 months, and then I got fired, and it was all good. But after I got fired, I was doing some print work, some magazine stuff, some hair magazine, because I used to have hair, not anymore. And
I was saying, but I'd be lying.
You keep growing your hair. It's amazing how your hair grows. I need to find out the secret. But anyway, let's put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
But I was walking down 22nd Street in Manhattan, and I bumped into my good friend Keenan Towns, and we just started chopping it up. He went to school with me at Temple, and he told me that he was about to go on tour, the Sinbad Soul Beach Music Festival tour, and the Tom Joyner cruise. So he was like, I'm looking for somebody. Before he could even finish his sentence, I was like, when do we leave? Where are we going? What's happening? How do I get there? So it was working for Tanqueray at the time, Tanqueray Gin, for people who don't know what Tanqueray is. And I got on that boat and I made sure that I put my best foot forward. I was there before we were supposed to be setting up, and there the whole time enjoying the show because it was one of my favorite groups of all time. Earth, Wind & Fire was on that bill. So I definitely was watching the show. And then at the end of the show, I would break down our signage. So that was kind of like my introduction into the spirits business with Tanqueray. But I guess midway through the cruise, I got a call from the office, US Concepts, where I used to work. And they told me that they heard I was doing such a great job and they wanted to offer me a position there. So fast forward, came back to New York. they offered me a role as a key account manager for Hennessy, Grand Marnier, Tanqueray, Johnny Walker Black, a rum called Akumari rum. I don't even think it's in the market anymore. And Moet and Chandon and Dom Perignon. So those were my brands. Those were my brands when I first started working in this business. And so right from there, it was like, I can only go up from here.
They threw you right into the fire.
Threw me right into the fire. And it was a beautiful thing because I still have some of those same relationships that I made back then. So that kind of started my stint in the spirits industry.
Because like I said, I remember when, like, well, not remember when we initially met, but I remember Sincere, because I think I worked at Motown before Sincere got there, because I was an intern for Deidre Tate.
Okay, yeah.
You know, back then, like, everyone was still trying to find their way, and yeah, because Motown had just moved to New York under MCA, and I know when Sincere worked there, they had already, because when I worked at Motown as an intern with Deidre, it was like one office. With Motown, it became like a full department.
Oh, yeah.
I actually started around the same time as this guy that's actually waiting for some people to make a decision for him about the rest of his life. But
isn't it funny how we all find creative ways to say this man is? I found myself doing that earlier today. Because you just never know what the reception is, you know.
Exactly. I mean, people know that I came up with him anyway, so it's like, but you know, sometimes you have to play with it, because with some people it's sensitive, with some people it could go anywhere. But like I said, I'm gonna have fun with what I do, and I just felt that was a good way to say, instead of me and Diddy came up together, you know. So
yeah, exactly. You don't want to say that actually.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Without incriminating myself. Now let me stop. But I do remember, like, when you first started, and like Sincere, because I think he had worked with Flavor Unit as well, right?
Sincere's worked with everybody, but
yeah, he worked with everybody but me, it seems.
Okay, everybody but you, but he was working Polygram.
Oh yeah, yes, that's
Polygram right before that.
So, like I said, I remember, you know, meeting you when you first was working with him, and like I said, of course, staying friends. You know, you've gotten me drunk many times. Well, you know what? Let me rephrase that, because people say that they rarely see me drunk. You've helped me get to a different state of mind without getting where, you know, some people wasn't supposed to be. But anyway, because that was going to be my question, because we all know in this industry specifically, even though we all start in a particular part of the industry, we end up, even if it's under the same umbrella, doing something else. Like, I came into the game as a singer-songwriter, you know, ended up in MC Light's video. Actually, I was in MC Light's video around the time when I was interning for Deidre Tate at Motown. So then I started doing parties. So it's like, and even me writing now, I never even had writing on my mind. But the reason why I say all that, because like I said, I remember you from music promotions, but most recently you've been doing everything within spirits, you know. So how was the transition? Because we do have to, anybody that's in this industry for more than, nowadays, 6 months, it seems, for a significant amount of time, have to either shift their priorities, even if they're running the company, because the tide always changes. How was the change from you doing, I mean, you first started at NBC, then the music thing, and then spirits, and even though it may have been a short amount of time, how was it, how did it help you transition to being able to work in the many positions you've worked over the past 70 years you've been in this industry?
Okay, so over the past 70 years since I've been in this industry, since you want to play games, I believe the mainstay, the common thread that weaves all of this through for me is relationships. You know, I started out, as I mentioned, working at Motown Records, and that's where I met the late great DJ Clark Kent, Chad Elliott, super producer. You know, I was able to work alongside Sincere and so many other amazing people who are still either in the industry or in the music industry or who have reinvented themselves. I just saw James McMillan post something today.
I saw that today.
Art at War. And I was like, man, that's so cool. I'm so happy to see so many people flourishing in their later years, you know, and it's all about the relationships from the beginning. But then what continues to drive that is your passion. You know, it's Sincere told me a long time ago, probably when I first met him, if you love what you do, you'll never feel like you worked a day in your life. So that has been ringing in the back of my mind, you know, all these years, because I pride myself on accepting roles that I know I can connect with the people. You know, your peers, the people that you work with are the most important people in this equation, because have you ever been in a bad relationship and nothing good happens and nothing good comes out of that? You know what I mean? So I believe that my longevity in this business has been, or can be attributed to the relationships that I've built with some amazing people. And then also learning how to steer clear from the people who don't mean any good for you, who cannot, you know, who are just all talk and no action, or who also, you know, look at you and they think they're in a competition with you, you know?
Encounter that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of my questions was exactly, you have a very diverse circle of friends and people you've been around for many years. How are you able to, I can't even read my own handwriting.
Oh, good God.
What is that? How are you able to keep a circle and, well, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny that you just said that, because that's one of my questions. Because, like I said, I see, and I see the type of people that you have in your inner circle. Because we can have circles, and then we also have inner circles. And I don't think people understand the difference. And you have people that have been there literally for the past 20 plus years, and in 5 years they're still going to be there.
Absolutely.
And yet, when I say diverse, like different industries, different jobs, different things. And I know I can go to an Aria event, whether it's at her house, if I'm ever allowed back there again, or at any events, then I know that I'm going to see some of the knuckleheads. I mean, some of the people that I've met, you know,
Yep.
you know, and I think that, and the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's very important. And a lot of people we know, you see them with a different group of friends every like 3-4 years. And I think that that's really kind of telling on that person. But you are one of the very few people I know that I've literally I can count every friend that I know personally that you've been involved with. And even if they're not involved in the industry, I know that they're still around you, because if I come to an event that Ari is doing, I have something to do with, I see the same people. And that's definitely impressive. But how are you able to do that? But you already answered that, but that was where I was going when I put that question down, because like for you to do so much and to be involved with the things you have and to have those same people around you is definitely impressive. And like, how are you able to figure out who will end up being in a circle without it being a selection process, if that makes sense?
Well, it's definitely not a selection process for me. It's and my friends actually criticize me a little bit because they call them randoms, because they call them you know, they think that they're, you know, my girls are very, 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 you know, strong-willed. They say what's on their minds. They don't hold back. They don't mince words. You know, if you do something wrong, they're gonna call you to the carpet on it. And that's what I love about them. But they also need to give me a little grace, because I meet a lot of people, and sometimes I genuinely like the person and I want to, you know, hang out with them. But I believe that you are able to blend your worlds together. So as you mentioned, I have the same exact friends that I've had forever. So if you're my friend and I consider you my friend, you will be my friend forever. There's no getting out of this. We're stuck together. right?
Unfortunately.
So,
I mean, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
absolutely.
But at the
Absolutely.
same time, I don't know if I'm a friend. I'm probably a random. Now let me stop.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you
Yeah,
ask Susan, she's
yeah.
going to say you're a random.
I know exactly who would say what.
Yep.
I've been around a couple of times, so
As you should. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to keep the same people around you and not just, switch up, because that shows that you have the ability to work through problems. You have the ability to connect people no matter what your inner thoughts are about them. You have the ability to just, make new friends if you need to, or see something in someone that maybe no one else has seen. And I pride myself in having friends that will go to war for me, toe to toe, 10 toes down, they stand. And if you say something about me, you got to be ready for a fight, So
that's why I've been quiet lately.
yeah, the same. I mean, I have definitely the same feelings. It's like I'm not going to allow anyone to permeate my circle of friends with their foolishness, So it's going to have to be all of us the same. And I get tired of being the connector at times, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Or blame, depending on the people.
Yeah, I mean, we do this event every year called Battle of the Sexes. So it's, the guys versus the girls. But then as we've gotten older, it became everybody just show up and eat, drink, and then let the kids battle it out. But not many of my friends have kids. So it's like we're trying to figure it out as we get older, who's going to keep this legacy going. But I say that because I actually produced the event. And I'm the one that comes up with the date. I'm the one that's begging people to let me know an answer by this date so that I can plan effectively. I can get the park permit. I can, get the chefs and the food and the games ready and organize committees. So these are things that I love to do. And I guess they come from my background of really organizing and managing people and managing, properties and products and things. So it's all a circle for me. My work environment transfers into my personal, my social environment. Everything that I do is intertwined. And the people that I interface with need to understand who I am, and they need to be able to speak for me if I'm not in the room and say good things about me. So that's why it's important for me to keep the same group of friends year over year consistently, even if we don't talk all the time.
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm no longer around, because I don't say good things. But anyway, so I want to. This is something that we come across as people who've been in the industry for so many years and have done so many different things. Like you've already kind of touched up on it, the juggling, because you have a son who's like older than me now.
Pretty much, he's older than me too.
And to you're a social person, but part of your social DNA works with your work DNA as well, and you also had to raise a son. And like, how are you, or how were you? Because your son's a little older now, so you don't have to worry as much,
right?
Because he's older and about 6'8", stuff. And being a woman, not even that, being a Black woman. So I know that you have struggles. When I say struggles, I don't mean like it's just a matter of we're really in a male dominated world or a white dominated world, whatever the case may be. But like, for you to have to juggle like having a great social life, or at least from the outside, having a great career, good friends. No, I don't even say phenomenal friends. Like I said, you have the same friends around, and then raising a child. And I haven't seen you. And I was about to make probably would be a bad joke. I was like, maybe that's why your hair doesn't grow, because you probably pulled all your hair out from dealing with all of this. But like, how were you able to get through? Well, I shouldn't say get through, because I don't want to make it sound as if like it's a negative thing.
It's not a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, because many people, like, mental health is a thing. And as Black people, I think we're starting to realize that we can get help. And not to say that's what this issue is about, but that just
Right.
came out. Like I said, everything goes out the window when I'm talking because
It's okay. But I understand your point because it's all related, right?
Yeah.
And I think that to answer your question very simply, you are only as strong as your support system.
Yeah.
You know, my son's father, my ex-husband, has been an amazing figure in his life. And it's important for him because he didn't grow up with his father in his life as much as he would have liked to. And so it's important. It was important for him to be there for his son. You know, he was both of our firstborn. He's my only child. So I dote on him still to this day, and he's 25, but he was raised by all of us. So
17 aunts and uncles and
auntie,
Jersey alone. No.
forget about it. Like, and you know, my girls, my originals, my day ones, Donna, Maria, Ebony, you know, like they're his true aunties. And then later on, Marlo came into the fold, and you know, we've been rocking ever since. So they've always been supportive, and none of them, the three of them, didn't really hang out too much. I was the wild one. So I was the one that was always trying to be on the scene. And you know, so it was definitely my ex-husband that was supportive of everything that I did, because I worked in that industry. I had to be out. And then when I wasn't out, I felt lost. You know, so I was like, I wouldn't want to sit in a house. I'd be like, okay, what are we going to do now? He's like, oh, let's watch a movie. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go get some popcorn.
And the county.
So yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think that I didn't establish a real true bond with my son until he became 21 and learned how to drink and learn the proper shot ritual tactics. And and I mean, honestly, I didn't think that my son was ever going to drink. I didn't think that he approved of what I did, period, in as a career. And then next thing you know, he's selecting a major in marketing. Unbeknownst to me, he didn't tell me. He told my friend Dane that that's what he wanted to do.
Dane.
And then you know, it just warmed my heart because I had no idea the impact that I had on him. Because your mom, right? Your mom, your dad, you're not thinking about how the kid's looking at you or how you're being perceived by them. You're just thinking about, how do I pay for the soccer? How do I pay for that? How do I get you to an environment that you feel supported and encouraged and empowered, and that you can learn to have a voice? You know, and how can I get you into an environment that you will thrive?
Yeah.
So all of those things. So I can only you know, attribute that to having the right people around me, the people who would, you know, say, you know what, if you need to go do this, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Yeah. Or on the flip side, you know, my son has been on set with me a lot of times too. So, you know, he just learned how to grow up around us and around this environment. So he knows how to act. And that's that.
And it's funny because, like, I always say to people, like, as well as I know you, or as many years as I know you, I'm never going to know Aria at home. I may have been in Aria's house. I may have been at events or whatever like that. But you know, everyone has a mask, and not saying that that's a bad thing, but because, you know, not a code switch, but I'm going to be different around my mother than I am around my friends, not because I'm a different person, but because it's different scenarios. So even for you to say that, like, you know, you're thinking that your son, like, surprised that he wants to do something that you're doing, that's a shock to me, because I just figured that would be like something he would do because he sees what you've done or he sees what you're doing. But like I said, I can't see from his or your eyes because I'm not there, and plus I don't have any children of my own, so I either. But you've also made sacrifices due to, of course, your son and just other things in general. Like, what does that look like to you? And I mean, you don't have to go into specifics, but One of the things I do try to do when I do have these conversations is there are people who may know me or may know what I do, but I try to get people to see different perspectives because everyone thinks that because we're at parties all the time, or we're getting free merchandise, or we're getting whatever, that we're always happy. We're always like everything is gung ho, and everything is always happy because you see the pictures and I'm smiling. You might come to my house, you might see all these liquor bottles because I have friends that work in the spirits industry and things of that nature. But I also tell people that I think it's also important to, like I said, not without going into detail, but let people know because I was unemployed. I didn't have a regular job for 7 years, and a lot of people didn't know that.
Wow.
Because I was still doing parties here and there, but I didn't have a regular job, and the money I had dwindled all the way down where I literally went broke. And I wouldn't have been ashamed to say it then, but just like when I was high on a horse, which I haven't been in a while. Let me stop. I'm gonna still keep the same mindset, and I think that's why when people find out, or when I tell people like the struggles I've gone through, they're looking at me like, "You're always smiling, you're always happy," and it's like, yeah, but like I said, I just want to get it from a different perspective because people look at me like I'm always smiling, so I'm always happy. I'm like, no, I'm coping. I'm doing well enough where I can smile.
Doing the best you can.
But for you, like how are you able to make the type of sacrifices where you can still look like you're just like on top of the game all the time, knowing that by the time you get home, there's whatever is affecting you, or something mentally, or Seth is not responding to my phone calls anymore. I mean,
Devastating. Well, I'll tell you this. My mother told me many years ago that no matter what happens in your life, don't change your lifestyle. So when I lost my job at Motown Records, I continued to just, be on the scene. I continued to meet people. I continued to connect people. And I continued to talk about what I wanted to do and to what is it called? Speak truth to power, as they say. And anytime anything goes wrong in life, because every day there's something that's going to go crazy, I just try to remember that I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. Number one, I'm not religious, but I'm definitely spiritual, and I know that He didn't bring me this far to bring me this far. Yeah, so I keep that in the back of my mind. I keep what my mother said in the back of my mind, and I just move forward with it. And it's great that you asked this question now, because right now I don't have a brand that I'm attached to. My brand that I'm attached to is me, Aria F. Wright. That is it. That is the brand that I want to leave this earth protecting, continuing to grow, continuing to empower and flower from the inside out. Whenever I see anybody, they're going to get the same person as the person who may not have two nickels to rub together, but has a great outlook and just exuding confidence in whatever I do. So,
well, it's funny you said that, because that was like one of my bullet points where I try to tell people the importance of, even if you're working with a brand, still being who you are. So that was perfect because like when I worked at the Source and when I had interns for the first time, one of the very first things I said to them, and some told me later that was the best advice I gave them. I'm like, regardless of where you work, always present yourself as you from, as opposed to you. Like, you can be part of the Source, but if people are affiliating you with the Source and only the Source and nothing else, once the Source gets rid of you or you leave the Source, they don't care about you. But if you present yourself as so-and-so from the Source, or I've always done that. I'm BIGCED wherever I go.
Yep.
I work at McDonald's. I'm BIGCED at McDonald's. It is what it is. I'm at the Source. I'm at this place.
BIGCED flipping fries.
Hey, listen, it's a brand. And I was told when I was before people became brands, when that became a thing, I was told that I was branding myself by making sure that people knew me as BIGCED.
Absolutely.
And I didn't realize it at the time. And now, like I can go anywhere and people are gonna recognize BIGCED. For good or bad, that's a different question. But people are gonna recognize BIGCED as opposed to Cedric from Black Enterprise or Cedric from Vibe or whatever. And that was gonna be my question to you: is like, how is Aria Wright? Like, I don't know if anybody associates you with the brand, because from the outside looking in, I think it might be because I know you or because I see you all the time. I always see you as Aria Wright, but at the same time, I've been around since the beginning, so I didn't see you as Aria from Motown or Aria from Martell or whatever. It's just a matter of that's Aria Wright. She's gonna beat my ass if I say the wrong thing. Let me stop.
And that's one thing you can bet on. No, I definitely love that, what you just said, because I remember years ago when I worked for Hennessy, and I put this picture up, and I want to say it was when either Instagram was a very new tool, and I had the picture up, and I had in the bio Hennessy something something, and my twin brother Kanan Jasper was like, if you don't take that down, he was like, you are not Aria from nowhere, you Aria. He said some other choice words, but that was that. So
Aria fucking right.
So I said, well, it was just a picture. And I at the time I was just like, oh, it's a picture. Why are you so bent out of shape about it? But then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Don't limit me to just being Aria from a brand, because there's so much more to me. There's so many more layers. There's so many more things that I want to do. There's so many more areas that I haven't touched. And this was when I was relatively still new, because you reinvent yourself every few years. When you sit back in your room and you're, up at night thinking about what's next, you think about all the different ways that you can reimagine yourself. And I love that you said that in working on your brand, because I know you as BIGCED. Everybody knows you as BIGCED. If somebody said, they'd be like, who? Cedric Santos? Like what? Cedric the Entertainer? Who are you talking about? What you talking about? So I commend you for, standing firm on that is your brand, and whatever you do will be a part of your story and your journey. So I believe that, Moet Hennessy is a big part of my journey. I worked on Hennessy for 16 years. For 16 years, I think it was like 16 years, and I worked on other brands for so long. I mean, I one day I sat and tallied up how many brands that I've actually touched, and it was in almost about 30 brands, I would say, over my career. Now, whether I had a vested interest in the brands or not is a different story. But and meaning what I say that meaning whether I was actually working on a program and really immersed in the program, or whether I was just kind of consulting or helping out a friend, build something or build a deck or do a presentation or do a pitch or something like that. So all of these things, somewhere about 30 brands that I've worked on in my career. So you can't say that I'm Aria from anywhere. You can reference one of the brands that I've worked on, or say Aria who works in spirits. But again, that's not all, because right now I'm not working in spirits. Right now, I'm working on passion projects. I'm working on things that I've always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, things that are always, I felt come naturally and that I enjoy doing. So I want to see how far I can go with that and turning that into a career, into something that will be financially sound for me, because I still do have bills to pay. My son is still trying to hit me over the head for his student loans. And although he graduated last year from Howard University. And I was talking to I was talking to Chris Latimer, my other brother from another mother, a few weeks ago. And he's so proud of, my son's name is Nigel. He's so proud of Nigel. And he tells me that all the time. Kanan the same. They always go down to where he works. Nigel works at the park in DC. Works for Mark Barnes. And I've known Mark for a number of years too. So when he went in there, and right when he was about to go and see Mark for the first time, I had to sit him down and I had to explain to him the book of Mark Barnes. And if you know Mark, he's a no nonsense guy. He doesn't mince words. He will say whatever's on the top of his head or at the tip of his tongue. And it might not be good, and it might not be something that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. But I think that that's helped him grow over these years that he's been working with him. So I look at my son as the testament to the work that I've done in this business and in my home, raising my child and taking care of my family. And my friends are a part of my family. So any part of them can rub off on him. And you could take on any persona and I wouldn't mind. Because like you said earlier, all of my friends are out doing amazing things and, being very aspirational. So I tell my son all the time, you have a very strong network, because I know half the free world and they know who you are, and they would do more for you than they would do for me. So take advantage of that.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because especially in the industry that we work in, the intertwining of it is, people say it's about who you know, and it's a combination, but you get further based on who you know because of who you know.
Absolutely.
But I just saw that Aaliyah Crawford, she said hi.
Hey, Aaliyah.
Be an original, even though I don't like him. Now let me stop. Let me stop. But I know I have limited time with you, so there was a question I want to ask, because I saw this in your bio, and I literally just saw the term for the first time ever. What is life cycle marketing? So
when you look at growing up,
it was a misprint at first. I was like, "Don't you mean lifestyle?"
No,
like, no, that's not okay. I was like, okay,
so life cycle marketing means you grow with a brand. So my ultimate branding opportunity would be to work with a brand at its infancy stages, and then we grow together, right? As I learn more about the brand, I'm able to talk more about the brand to other people, and people are able to kind of see it, touch it, feel it, and experience it for themselves, and then be able to kind of tell their own story about it. So then that means that you give the brand an extra set of legs, you give it an extra life, another lifeline, if you will, as you continue to evolve through this cycle. A lot of the brands that I've worked on, have been established brands, luxury brands. One of the brands that I worked on a few years ago, Camus Cognac, I was the U.S. ambassador, and I ran led all the marketing and social and digital and PR for the United States. It was a French brand, 5th generation family-owned brand, and they were based in Europe. So, they were all over there, and there were only a few people here. Actually, I started out working on the brand when I started my own company, when I left and started my own business in 2018. And I was working on Snoop Dogg's Indigo Gin with Keenan, who initially brought me back into the industry, the spirits industry. And I worked with him on the launch of Indigo Gin. And I worked with Chris Latimer on the rebranding of AACA, African American College Alliance. And I also was working with Camus Cognac, producing their very first limited edition event for their bottle. So doing all of these things really helps me remember that a brand has to start somewhere. It has to have a great story, a compelling story, and people have to understand it and buy into it. And then they can eventually grow with that brand as they learn more about it, learn different ways to consume it, learn different consuming occasions, consumption occasions. Some brands you don't want to drink at home by yourself because you might be considered something else. Other brands you would want to only drink in a, in a setting where they're doing bottle service. Yeah. Another brand you might want to drink in a lounge. I'm a cognac girl. I love cognac. And I've just started getting into bourbons. So I just loved brown spirits. So I find myself working through the life cycle of the brand, because the more that I know about the brand, the more that I'm able to kind of experiment with it, do different things with it, talk to people about it, and invite them into my circle of love and show them the benefits of this brand. So I just love the life cycle, working with the life cycle of the brand versus coming in to an already established brand and not really, and hitting a ceiling, not really being able to contribute much to that brand. I mean, certainly you come up with different KPIs, different, key performance indicators that indicate how the brand is actually doing and selling and tracking in terms of their respective target consumer. But then there's the other part that's not tangible. That's the part where people start to call it, they start to go to the bar and look for it, and they get upset if it's not at the bar. So it's a process, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's what's kept me in this industry for so long, because I find different things about the brands that I love every day and every time I consume them or every time I work on them.
That's cool. I did have to make a reference only because it seems as if I work someplace and then you just happen to work there later, Motown, I Said Media.
I Said Media. Oh, I can't wait to tell. I spoke to Leslie the other day, Leslie Hall.
I haven't seen Leslie in so long, but I was hanging out with Dwayne at Daytwan's 50th birthday party.
Yes.
And I speak to Reggie. I still speak to Reggie. So.
Oh yeah.
Because I was their first hire.
I got to reconnect with Reggie, because the thing is, Reggie wasn't working there when I worked there.
Oh, so okay.
And then my one of my best friends, Renee, was like, "Do you know Reggie?" And I was like, "No." She was like, "Oh, I'm going to introduce you guys because he used to work there too, blah blah blah." And so we talked for a while, and we were communicating back and forth. But then I think that I lost connection with him when my Instagram was hacked last year, and I was charged a ransom for it to get it back. And I said, "You can have it. Yeah. You can have it. Keep it." So, but yeah, thank you for reminding me. I got to reconnect with Reggie.
Well, if you don't, I can just put you in direct, because I literally saw him like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And well, I ain't gonna say his location, but he's close by.
Okay.
So, good. But yeah, I know you'll have things to do. I'm just trying to make sure that I just at least cover something. Is there anything that you're working on, that you're about to work on, or that you'd like to talk about?
Yes. So on Sunday, what's today? Wednesday? Tuesday? I don't even know what today is. Tuesday,
July 1st. Yes.
Yes, July 1st. So 2 days ago, I produced my very first passion project.
Yeah.
So all these years of collecting things and being a hoarder is finally paying off, because the dream that I had was to open up a consignment shop. Yeah. Initially, when I thought about it, and when I said this can be a real thing now that I'm in this next phase of my career and my life, and the things that I want out of it, and just being more purposeful and intentional in going for the things that I really want to do. I said the first thing out the gate is this consignment shop, and I was going to looking for a space to do a brick and mortar to do the shop. But then I don't know what happened. Something happened one night, probably up all night again, looking at the ceiling fan. I said, why am I even making this more difficult than it needs to be? Why not do a pop-up? I did pop-ups with AACA, with Chris Latimer. Like, I can do this. I can do this. It makes sense. I don't have a lot of overhead. I just have to get my proper tools, and then I just have to promote it and market it. So our first event was Sunday. And when I tell you that the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come, was a real person, that was Sunday. I couldn't even tell you the feeling that I got from doing something that was mine, and making money for me and doing something that I enjoy doing, that was just a dream. it came to fruition, especially when I saw people who were just like kind of, like, oh yeah, I see, I'll post it, whatever. Seeing them walk through the door. Maria Brito, she walked through the door and I almost passed out. Tammy Ford walked through the door, almost passed out. Tamiko White walked through the door, and I was like, fashion royalty is in my place. And shout out to Ali and Makiba Stansel at Unique Salon, because they offered the space to me. They said they trusted me, and that's really what it's about. Really about that, like having people support you and support your dream, support the things that you say, and speaking it into truth.
That's always a good feeling. Definitely.
It's a great feeling. There are so many other people that showed up, but I mean, just, in June, my partner June. So, I also, for the past couple of years, had done Brooklyn Chop House rooftop with Tammy Ford and June Garcia. So they came in, took the train, plane, automobile, boat, swam across the Hudson from the Bronx to get here, used their passport, and they showed up. And I just appreciate that. I appreciate it. I didn't care if anybody didn't buy one thing, which is not what happened. But at the end of the day, all of the work and the energy and the pulling my hairs out, because I say hairs because I ain't got that many, but pulling my hairs out and sitting and wondering, is this enough? How much food should I have? This is the launch event. And then, my significant other was like, you don't need no food. You just open the doors. And I'm like, that's not how we do things, though.
And he should know better.
He should know better. I'm from a hospitality background. I'm not going to just have you show up. So, of course, I had some wine, and I bring in my friends with me. So I had some wines by my girl Ingrid Best, iBest Wine. She just launched a South African wine, South African wine line. So she, was right there with me, giving people an opportunity to sample their product. And then my girl Miko Page, who is a former pro golfer, and she just opened up a vegan cookie shop 2 blocks from my house. So I bring my people wherever I go, and I'm very intentional about that, and I'm very intentional about highlighting my friends, people, and especially the women that are in my life.
Yeah, that's why I had to feature you on My Friends Are Better Than Yours. You're just great. But I do appreciate, because like I said, I know you have things to do, and I don't want to take you away from it. And I mean, because we can literally go for another 2-3 hours and still won't get into everything.
Exactly.
But I don't want to take up too much of your time. And plus, there's always the future, because I'm pretty sure that there's something big that's going to happen quite quickly. Because you're Aria fucking Wright.
Oh my goodness!
I never curse on my program, but
now you did several F-bombs.
I had to, because just because of the F, and now YouTube's gonna shut down my page. Let me stop.
Right. Yeah.
All because I wanted to say Aria Wright.
Right. Yes. There you go. Well, I do want to say one more thing. I'm sorry, because the pop-up that I did the other day was one of those areas that I just really was like, I felt compelled to do it. But I'm also learning the NIL space. And it's funny because I was talking to one of the advisors, one of my business advisors, Gary Stevens. You may know him as Spank or Spanky. He was like, he came up to me after the pop-up and grabbed me by the shoulders and was like, you said what you wanted to do and you just did it. And it pushed me away. So I think that fueled me to just keep going. So the NIL stuff is on deck next. I'm working on some film projects and some philanthropy projects with one of the people that I used to work with prior to me going to BET, which I didn't mention, but it's a big part of my life as well. And we produced the first Shaquille O'Neal roast back in the, I don't even know what year that was.
10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a couple years ago. But we reconnected when I was actually in Abu Dhabi at the grand opening of the Brooklyn Chop House.
Yeah.
And she was actually leading Steve Harvey's foundation. So she brought, Mary J. Blige and Taraji Henson and a bunch of other people out to Abu Dhabi. And then in talking to her, she was just like, look, there's a world outside of New York that you just need to tap into. So I'm tapping into that world. I'll be at the Essence Festival tomorrow. I actually leave tomorrow morning. And I just came from the ABFF, and I hadn't been to the ABFF in years.
Yes, yeah.
I used to sponsor the ABFF with Jeff Friday and Reggie. Oh my gosh, Reggie Scott. So I used to sponsor the event with Grand Marnier, I want to say, when I worked on Grand Marnier many moons ago. Actually, the first year that we worked with ABFF was when it was still in Acapulco.
Yeah.
And they're now celebrating, 35 years or something like that? 35 years, something like that, and I saw Jeff at the film festival, and he was like, I said, is there any chance that you'll ever go back to Acapulco? Because Acapulco was sexy. And I was so upset when they moved it to Miami, but I understand it's for business reasons. But he was like, oh my God, Aria, let me tell you, the cartel. I was like, say less. I'm good. So, but anyway, so film, NIL, some more stuff with Pat, my significant other, and just doing whatever else is in my mind that's giving me this warm and fuzzy feeling, things that will really just help to catapult me to the next level, expand my network, be able to allow me to help other people. I definitely want to keep mentoring, younger people that are coming into these industries, because they need to see people like me, my friends, you, who are just doing it. I always used to wonder when I moved to New York how people got by without having real jobs, because your mindset is you leave college, you get a job, and you go and work for somebody else. I never saw this many entrepreneurs and people who are just making it happen, years and years and years of putting in that work. And I can call out a bunch of names right now, people we all know and love. Like, and the first one that comes to mind is, Michelle Huff. Like,
Michelle, yeah.
I'm just like, man, you still in here? You still doing this? Joy Brown. She just produced an amazing event. Like, oh my God, the culture creators. And I'm like, you're the culture creator. You are the culture creator.
I remember when she started it. So it's like,
so proud of them for just having that having that energy and just the wherewithal to stay and to continue to hone their skills and to continue to grow their brand and their product. So hands down to all of the entrepreneurs and all the people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, because it's not easy, but it's definitely something that will be fulfilling.
Well, like I said, that's one of the reasons why I started this specifically, because, everybody does interviews, but I mean, like, just my circle alone, like, I could not meet anybody for the next 15 years and still have people that I can still continue to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give an example. I was Matt Middleton's very first client. I worked with Chris on the streets when you were the AHCA and the hockey jersey. So it's like we can continue. In fact, that's where I met Jamil Spencer. But like I said, so many different names that we could bring up of people that
just grinding
doing it and still doing it. And like I said, I definitely want to acknowledge them in whatever way I can, because I've seen how you started, the years to where you're going, and knowing that you're still going to do more. And like I said, even if it's just for me to just acknowledge, for me, that's even more important than having to have a conversation with Jay-Z for the 10th time, and that he's never going to remember who I am because he speaks to people like me on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. At least you're going to acknowledge, well, at least while the camera's on, who I am. But I feel, and I feel good knowing that, like, I went to school with Slick Rick, Dana Dane, like, so people like that. So it's like, from my very beginning, before I even got into the industry, meeting so many people that had dreams and went and fulfilled them.
Absolutely.
and still doing it. And I think that's more important than actually being successful in itself, because if you're not successful, will it really matter? So I think it's just a matter of showing people that, letting people hear other people's stories, especially when we all have similar starts.
Absolutely.
And like I said, to let people know that even when things are bad, you can still bounce back and definitely get back up. Because like I said, I'm gonna use D Nice as an example. We had a great conversation years ago, and he, like, when I found out like his struggles, when he told me personally, like I literally like cried. And then to see him now, several years later, to be even bigger than he would have imagined, because he wants to be a rapper. Like I said, there's so many different things, and the fact that I know these people, I know y'all, and I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let other people find out who y'all are that don't know, because I'm pretty sure everyone knows who Aria fucking Wright is. I just had to say that one last time. I just had to say
the F-bomb, please. My mama got to look at this. Stop playing.
I'm sorry, yeah, and my mom, yeah. And that's why I said I never do it, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ma. Sorry. I was going to say this right, but I'm not too sure. So sorry, brother. Okay,
yep. We all right over here.
Yeah.
You're right. The last thing that I'm actually going to say is that, because you just sparked something else in me. You never know, no matter what your struggles are, no matter how you feel like you look to the world, you never know how you are perceived and what you mean to people. And people will come up to me all the time and say, oh my God, you gave me my first this, or you did this for me, or you introduced me. MC Search calls me all the time saying that he's going to, like, deals. He's like, oh, you introduced me to this person, you get a percent of this deal, because that's how we do it in the Jewish community. So this is what y'all need to do. So it's people like that will always be around, and you can always
together too. Me and Such went to school together too.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Said you've been around for a long time. Are you a part of that racketeering conspiracy?
Listen, I mentioned no names. Nothing that can be used against me in any future, because somebody could look at this 10 years from now and be like, wait a minute, statute of limitations is not up. So
yep, there you go. Mom's a word.
There will be no mentions of anything.
No mentions. No freak offs. Sorry.
But I do appreciate your time and the knowledge you've laid upon us. And as I stated before, good luck with any and everything you do. And of course, I got your back. And one thing I can always say, and I tell people, like, even though I don't like you, at least you get me drinks. Now let me stop. You look out, and sometimes I come to the spot, I'm just gonna chill, whatever. You be like, come on, I got you. I'm like, okay,
Yeah. Well, contrary to popular belief, and I don't care what anybody else says, you my dude. Said, I love you, man. I love you, bro.
I love you as well. I can't say that around, somebody else, because
Well, thank you for having me. It was great talking to you. And then we'll save the other 4 hours for another time.
Yeah, definitely, because like I said, by that time you'll have conquered like other things, and you'll be on your 10th pop-up, and then LeBron would be like, yeah, I just partnered with Aria, and I had to convince her to partner with me, and
from your mouth to God's ears.
Exactly.
Let's speak into life.
Exactly. So if you stayed for this long, thank you for staying. This is BIGCED Industry Cosign. As I always say, my friends are better than yours. And if you can prove me wrong, the only thing I can say is your friend is probably my friend too. Until the next time,
like that.
Take it easy, and thank you, Aria, once again.
Thank you, Sad.
The next time.
I'll talk to you in a bit.